My wife Lori and I started dating when we were in college. It's been a long time ago. The first Christmas we were apart, it was miserable. We weren't going to see each other for several weeks. Neither of us liked that idea. She was in Denver, Colorado, and I was at home on the other side of Cincinnati. We were more than 1,200 miles apart that holiday break. That was too far. It was too long. We both hated it. We were talking on the phone every day, but that's just not the same as being together. Finally, with her parents' help, we got a one-way plane ticket from Denver to Cincinnati. I can tell you right now, I still remember what she was wearing that night when I saw her in the airport to pick her up. That was almost 40 years ago. It was so good to be back together again. Anyway, I want to tell you, I missed being together with our church family. And I can't wait for the day when we're all back together at 311 Myers Street here in Seymour. A couple of weeks ago, I shared the guiding principles that would shape the relaunch of the Points Gathered ministry. While ministry has continued to flourish over the past several weeks during the highly unusual COVID pandemic, I gave you 3 specific principles that would shape how we would come together for worship and ministry in the days to come. Today, I want to expand on those principles and provide some additional specifics that might be helpful. You may remember that our first guiding principle stated that we would follow the directives of our government. Last week, Governor Holcomb issued a new executive order focusing on the roadmap to reopen the state of Indiana. With regard to churches, the governor made it clear that virtual services or streaming online services were preferred over physical gatherings. While he outlined a measured plan of reentry for various businesses and churches, the churches were exempt from social gathering size limitations as long as social distancing and other sanitation measures were followed. Although it was initially interpreted as a very positive thing for churches, after further consideration, it became a bit of a challenge to implement. Safety measures put in place to safeguard the health of Hoosiers trying to get a haircut or eat in a restaurant or go to the gym, it was lifted for Hoosiers attending a church service. I mean, you can't do any of these other things, but you can go to church. Now, don't get me wrong. We're looking forward to returning to worship services at the point as soon as it's safe to do so. But as leaders, we feel a responsibility to balance our desire to return with the wisdom to do so at the right time and under the right conditions. Just because we can meet together without any restriction, that doesn't mean that we should. We're grateful that the governor has given us permission to begin meeting. We're currently formulating the plan on how to come together safely, which leads me to the second guiding principle. In my message to you a couple of weeks ago, I stated that the relaunch of the ministry and services of the church will start small and happen in phases over a period of time. I'm happy to tell you that effective on Monday, May 11th, the church office will be open to the public during regular office hours, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. In addition, the church facility will be available to be scheduled by groups of less than 25 persons. This would include small groups, support groups, and various other meetings. Social distancing and sanitizing practices will be in place for all activities within the facility. Groups or meetings that may not be ready to gather can, of course, continue to meet online. Worship services will continue to be offered online only for these next few weeks. We're targeting a return to on-site services in late May or early June. There are several reasons for this timeline. First, the health and safety of the congregation is first and foremost in our minds. These few weeks will give us greater insight into the health of our communities and the congregation as the stay-at-home order or stay-at-home ban is lifted. Furthermore, we will learn a great deal about the impact of our online experiences as a church. We've seen that our reach over the past few weeks has been greater than at any other time in our church's history. I mean, just think about that. We realized that there were certainly far fewer competing forces for people's time and attention over these last several weeks. But I think it's cause for celebration that so many are making a choice to engage in worship at the Point through one of our online platforms. Our mission to point people to Jesus, it's being accomplished on a greater level than ever before. God has proven again that He can do immeasurably more than we could ever ask or imagine. He's bringing good out of circumstances that are less than desirable for sure. We'll continue to invest significant resources into making our online experience the best it can be, even after we fully implement a return to our on-site services. In fact, we'd already started the process a few weeks ago, and we'll be able to fully implement those initiatives by the time on-site services resume in a few weeks. This will allow for a much smoother transition to both on-site and online services. Now, please understand that our initial return to on-site services will include a number of environmental differences. The number of seats in the worship center will be significantly reduced in order to meet social distancing guidelines and allow for wider aisleways. Specific traffic patterns will be in place throughout the building, especially as it relates to coming and going from services. And we'll be working diligently to keep our worship space and common areas clean and sanitized before and between services. We'll be placing hand sanitizer stations in high traffic areas, and in addition to online contributions, we'll be receiving the offering at wall receptacles that'll be located throughout the building. We'll be encouraging our greeters as well as the entire congregation to implement no contact greeting. We'll also echo the governor's request that all individuals who are 65 and above or who have an underlying at-risk health condition stay home and watch the services online right now. And finally, as I stated previously, programming for kids and students will not resume simultaneously with our return to online or on-site Sunday morning worship. We anticipate following the example of our local school system with regard to the timing of those events for kids and students. Please know, I love you dearly, and I do count it as one of the greatest privileges of my life to be your pastor. These measured steps that I've shared with you today are especially difficult for me. There's nothing that I would rather do than to throw open the doors and welcome all of you with a warm hug or a hearty handshake. And my heart longs for that day. My heart longs for full classrooms of kids and students and the wonderful sounds of lifting our voices together in exuberant worship. But more than that, I want to get there together, healthy and strong. And we will. But until that day arrives, know that Jesus loves you, I love you, and together we're going to keep pointing people to Him. God bless.